success. And on this interview, we have Ben Hooson-Jones, and I'm always excited about these interviews, but especially this interview for a couple of reasons, because Ben is someone who's played a very large and integral role in the One Life Dare to Dream program. And he's someone who's had a mentor role almost his entire life, and he's now doing that in a couple of different areas. And so we're going to get into how he got here, and we're also going to get into why the One Life Dare to Dream program and other programs like that are so important and powerful. And Ben, I'm the other reason I'm excited to have this conversation is we've hung out at events in Sacramento, and we also hung out a lot more recently in Philadelphia. And but we were kind of working, and so now we're excited to kind of hang out. So thanks.
Work, no play. Work, no play, right?
I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So, Ben, one thing that I think is really great and a lot of people appreciate about the One Life community is that everybody kind of has everybody's on the same level. Everybody has the same kind of mindset in the sense that we're looking to grow ourselves. We're looking to give back. We're looking to create, some sort of value for other people. And what I really enjoyed about meeting you is that you seem to direct that energy and you seem to direct that purpose, at least for a large portion of your life, towards the youth. And you've spent a large portion of your years working directly in schools with kids, mentoring them, and now even in your role as a real estate professional, you're even today mentoring people. So can you kind of share how you ended up being a facilitator at One Life Dare to Dream recently in Philly, and kind of what that path looked like for you getting there?
Sure. I'll try not to do all the details, but I'll try to be as short as I can with it. I grew up in London, obviously from England, as many of you know, and when I was in school, I struggled. I had a short attention span. I didn't really get what I was learning. I was thinking, what's the point in learning this? And I didn't see why it was relevant to my life. So naturally, as you do as a kid, I started to lash out. I started to be poorly behaved. And it also didn't help that I was seeing some things at home between my mum and my dad that was not the right way to have a relationship. So I ended up being very angry with the world, and I lashed that out. I spent most of my time at school, and I took it out on my teachers and people that I didn't like. So this company came to my school when I was in 10th grade. It was a company called Utopia, and they came to my school and they did some work with us, and then they did some work specifically with me and a group of young people, and I loved it. They really got me. They really understood me. I felt like it was adults that really tried to connect with us and really tried to understand who we are and what our strengths are. So then I went through school. I finished 11th grade. I finished with next to no qualifications because, again, I just didn't see the relevance of it. And I was not in a good place. So I left from that, and then it took me to around, I was about 18 years old, and I remember sitting in a bar doing some things that I shouldn't be doing. And I thought to myself, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? Is this something that I really want to be doing for years and years? And I looked at the people around me, and I knew they were bad influences. And then I started to think about my twin brother. I have an identical twin brother called Pip. Yeah, it's a funny, typical British name. But I looked at him and I realized something. Me and him went through exactly the same things growing up. At the same time, at the same age, back home. And I decided to use that energy and be badly behaved and lash out and do all the things that I shouldn't be doing. And I used that as an excuse for my behavior. And then I looked at my brother, and he's a grade A student. He's hanging around with really nice guys. He's got a great friendship group. He's level-headed, and he's doing well in school. And at that time, he was just about to start going to college. And then it suddenly dawned on me, we grew up, I used my excuse of my background of having all this stuff happen to me. And I thought that was the problem, but the problem was who I was hanging around with. So from that day, I decided that I needed a new friendship group. And I got myself a bartending job, and I started hanging out with my brother's friends. A month down the line, I was in school. I went to try to go back to school to try to do further education. And the guy from Human Utopia, this group that did motivational talks, they came to my school, and I was having a conversation with him, and he said, you know, what are you doing now? And I explained what I was doing. And he said, why don't you come work with us? You know, it'd be good for you to get away. It'd be good for you to hang out with have some good role models, and you'll be surrounded by, you know, we'd be doing motivational work. You'd be helping young people inspire other young people. And I thought, why not? I was like, let's go for it. What's the worst that can happen? And I just started off as their tech guy. And then within 6 months, I just found myself itching to want to speak. I just found myself itching to share stories and really help young people across the board, because I saw so many young people that had similarities to me, and I wanted to help them. So within the year, I became a facilitator, and then within the next 5 years, I delivered to over 250,000 young people, and I helped create programs for them. And I loved it. I loved every second of it. And we focused on helping young people gain life skills, and saying to them, college is not the only route. Sure, that will help you in some professions, and you need to go to college, and you need to get those degrees and qualifications to do what you want to do. But it's not the only way to be successful, because that's all I thought when I was in school. I initially thought in ninth grade, I decided that I was dumb because I didn't understand what was going on in lessons because I wasn't paying attention. And so I wrote the story for myself. And I didn't believe there was another way. And working with this group, Human Utopia, showed me that there was another way, and that I could then use my strengths to help other young people. And that's kind of how I got into speaking. I met with Tim in One Life purely out of coincidence. I moved to America. I met my wife while I was over here. And when I moved, I was busy starting up my business again and trying to connect with everyone I could. And I met someone in the One Life community at a CrossFit gym. And we spoke, and I told her my background, and she just said, you've got to get in touch with Tim Rhodes. You've got to be a part of this conference that's coming in Philly in June. So I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? Why not? And then spoke with Tim. And then, I mean, the rest was history. I mean, we just connected. It was so nice to hear someone who's been so successful want to give back to that community. And that's why I think Dare to Dream is so important. I mean, our youth need it today. There's so much pressure that they go under. They got so much pressure from social media. If they've got pressure to be who they think they've got to be someone else, if they don't get that pressure in school, they get it on social media. If they don't get it on social media, they got it when they're hanging out with their friends outside of school. And there's constant pressures on young people to be a certain way. And you see it on TVs, and you see, you know, some good role models and some bad ones. And there's a lot of pressure for young people to be a certain way. And that's how you think, you know, that's how you think you can survive. And it was a joy working with the Dare to Dream team on projects, because these kids really do need it. So that's how I kind of got into the Dare to Dream role. And we do an important job. We do a very important job. I mean, hell, if we've only made a difference to 5 people out of the 2,000 people that we've helped, and we help them make better choices, I mean, we've left a legacy there. And, you know, it's that story of the starfish on the pond. Have you ever heard that one? Yeah, it's that, you know, one starfish at a time. And I believe that's what One Life is doing. I think it's a fabulous and important aspect of life.
One thing that I've heard you mention even before we got on the call is you mentioned the word programs a lot. And, you know, there are maybe different methods, right? Different ways to do that, whether it's one-on-one mentorship or whether it's sports or you know, we could maybe
right.
some different prescriptions, if you will. But you've mentioned programs a lot, and what do you find is the strength of these programs? And I'm sure that being involved with them, you've seen, these programs have a transformative effect on these kids. So can you talk about what the power is of specifically like a program like Dare to Dream, and what happens to a child over the course of an experience like that?
Sure. I mean, all the programs that are good out there, they're sustainable, and they're not just fly-by-nights, And these are fine, and this is all good, and you're still doing a good thing for these young people. But there's a lot of people that come in to a school and they do this talk and they get these kids inspired, and then they leave, and the kids are grasping onto that motivation, and then it disappears within a day, for some, maybe two. And the best programs out there are the ones that are sustainable, and that's what One Life's trying to do, is have a long lasting impact on these kids. It's saying to them, we care, we're going to come back. We have a whole networking group of entrepreneurs and successful people that want to help you. Like, we're here for you. And I think that's what the most successful programs do. I mean, what we used to do, which I think is the most successful way to work with young people, is we would work with the older students in the school first, and get them to really get them to think about what the best version of them is. And then we'd say to them, who wants to join our volunteer program? And then the next day we'd do some training with them, so that they can help us deliver a day to a younger group next. And so what we wanted to try and do is we wanted to create role models, because we found that the most powerful moments in a school and an event was when a young person was standing up, an older student was standing up and speaking about their experiences and relating to the young people. It was by far way more important than what I had to say, what any of the presenters had to say. And we wanted to build on that. And so we tried to build some role models and some mentors so that when we disappeared, there was still some mentors in the school that the kids could see every single day and they could relate to, because they've gone through what they're going through. And that's what we're trying to do in One Life. I mean, right now we're at the baby steps of development, and we're going to go on this huge journey, and we've come so far, and we're doing an amazing job getting these kids to really think, and then giving them a support network. I mean, that young lady that came to Philly, she's been to 3 events now. The one that initially came to our Dare to Dream event, and then is spending the weekend with all these entrepreneurs who are successful, and hearing these powerful speakers speak about, how to be successful, and tips and tools and how to do that. I mean, I wish I had that when I was 13 years old, 15 years old. People saying this is not the only way. So they're the programs that I feel the most successful, the ones that create that sustainability, the ones where people try to come back and forth and build that network group for young people. And I believe that's where One Life is gonna get to, and we're close to it. We're close to it. But of course, these things cost money, and that's the barrier I know Tim is facing with these things. And it's unfortunate that money makes the world go round. And I know that in 3 years' time, One Life is going to have a world-class program for young people to help them, without sounding corny or cheesy, dream plan and live their life. Really give them a sense of what they want to do.
So for the people who are kind of removed, or for the people who are unaware, where's the void lie, right? What are these kids missing, or what is it exactly that these programs are providing that they may not be getting from their classroom, or they may not be getting from their parents or from their teachers? What's missing from their environment that you find these programs are really providing?
So there's 3 things. So I feel that something that's missing in school, and this is not the teacher's fault, by the way, because I've been on the other side of education, and I understand it from a teacher's perspective. Teachers are under so much pressure to teach a curriculum and get kids to pass certain exams. A lot of them don't have time. A lot of the great teachers will make time for this, a lot of them don't have the time, and they're put under a lot of pressure to get these kids passing these exams and getting through each grade. I don't think we spend enough time on emotional intelligence, financial literacy, and just installing coping mechanisms in our young people. We don't talk about stress. We don't talk about anxiety, and it's a taboo subject for a lot of these kids. And when you're 13 years old or 15 years old, you're going through all these different emotions and you don't know how to handle them. So I think that the void is, it's again, coping mechanisms. It's teaching kids what to do with money and how to have a good relationship with money. And then also teaching them that there is another way. Again, teachers can't help but do this, and they say you've got to go to college or you've got to get these grades. If a teacher said these grades aren't that important, you can go ahead and be a successful businessman anyway, how are they going to get kids to do their job, do what they need them to do in school? And the void is saying that, there's another way rather than going to college. And I also think it wouldn't be healthy for teachers to do that. I think, it's the same reason for therapists. People like going to a therapist because they're emotionally out of the situation. They're a stranger. And I think it's important for companies like us, One Life Fully Lived, to go into schools because we are that side of the parenting for that kid. We can do that. We have the energy to do that. We have the people that want to do that have the time to do that. And that's why I think it's a beautiful relationship that you can have with these schools and these entities. I know we're trying to get into juvies. We're trying to get into anywhere where young people need our help. And we have the time to do that. And also, like I said, if teachers try to do it all the time, you become part of the furniture. Kids see you at your best times. They see you at your worst times. You see them at the best times. You see them at their worst times. And sometimes it's hard then to motivate a kid and, try to be both sides of that parent, have that emotional intelligence hat on, and then also have the academic hat on. If you ask me, kids throughout their first year in middle school should go through emotional intelligence. That's purely what they should focus on. And they should focus on how to handle stress when it comes to exams, how to handle anxiety when it comes to making new friends, when it comes to, finding out who you are as a person. Your body's going through all those changes. That's what I think should happen. Would it ever happen? When One Life get their own private school and they have their own students, then sure. But right now we serve a huge and important purpose in teaching these kids, going back to your point, where's the void? It's installing coping mechanisms, helping them gain valuable life skills around personal, professional, and financial development, and just being that person there for them. Teachers sometimes can't do.
You mentioned a lot about the need for providing that community for these kids. And I look at what is going on in a lot of youth culture, and it's frankly kind of scary. The type of things the type of people or role models that these kids are looking up to. Musicians, and there was a recent big rapper. But it's not a big rapper, but a famous rapper who overdosed. And it's
Right.
very. I think going to high school today is very toxic, and you mentioned the need, or I can only imagine, because when we went to in high school, we didn't have as much social media, we didn't have as much of that. That the world wasn't as exposed as it is today. So why do you think that the community aspect is so important for programs like this? And why can't you just give a kid a book, or why can't you just have them watch a video, or why can't you just, what do you think that really comes from creating, you talked about the sustainability, or these examples for people to look to? Can you talk about why that's important in some of these programs?
Sure. I mean, as a kid, you imitate everything that's around you. That's how you learn, right? That's how you learn how to speak. You imitate what your mum and dad's saying, and that's how you learn. So you're trying to soak up everything that you can, but sometimes you don't have the experience to say this is a good role model and this is a bad role model. So a lot of these kids, a role model is a role model. They don't know if it's good or bad or not. For some reason, they look up to that person. They just don't know why. They could look up to him because they see some bad traits in that person, or in that pop star, or in that, whatever that role model is. They could see a part of them in that, and you can't help but, as a kid. I mean, I'll give you an example. I remember this kid. I'm not going to mention his full name just in case, forever chance he might hear this from England. But his name was Ashley, and I remember being 12 years old. And for some reason, I saw this guy in the corridor, and I just thought he was cool. He had girls all around him. He was sporty. He was quite a good-looking dude. And I was like, that's who I want to be. In that split second, I decided that's who was going to be my role model in school. I didn't even talk to the guy. So when I would see him around in the corridors, when I would see him around in the playground fighting and doing things, I was like, if he does that, that's what I'm going to be. And you mentioned it's actually it's a sensitive subject to me, because I am so against, for a lot of things that are in the media, because of the message that it portrays to our young people. I mean, I used to work with kids when I used to mentor them with anxiety, with depression, with stress. And a lot of kids I worked with depression, I would say to them, okay, write down your top 10 favorite songs. And it would be a simple exercise that we would do. And then I'd look at the lyrics of all these songs, and I'd be like, okay, now show me your top 10 favorite pictures, quotes. And without realizing it, it was only until I made them aware of it, without realizing it, the kids, listening to songs about suicide and listening to songs about doing drugs and doing this, all the quotes are about being hurt and being in pain. And I would say to them, no wonder you're acting like this, because you're surrounding yourself by people and things that are saying that this is the way to be. And I kind of can't remember what your question was, but I think that it's important for someone else to come in and show them what a good role model should be. Because as well, and not all kids, but a lot of kids that are struggling in school, they don't have that great of a role model at home. Their older brothers, older sisters might be doing things that they shouldn't be doing, but yet they're just a sponge trying to soak up everything. That's all they see. I remember working with a kid once, and I was like, why is this kid so troubled? Why is he so damaged? And then I remember I don't know what you call it in America, but we had this thing called Parents' Evening. And it's where the parents come to the school, they see what's happening in the school. Out of his mum and dad, his dad didn't show up. His mum didn't show up. And then I met his dad. And then as soon as I met him, I was like, I get it. I get why you are the way you are, because this man is your role model. You look up to him. Why? Because he's your father, and that's the relationship you have between father and son. And I was just thinking to myself, this is all he knows. He doesn't know any other way. So then there's me coming in saying that it could be different. I have to show him that it could be different. So then what I would try and do is I would try to, get him to work with teachers one-on-one that were good adult, male role models within the school. And a lot of these kids don't have that. I mean, you speak to Will Little, and he knows what it's like. I think it was a astonishing statistic, and I might be wrong on this, so don't quote me, but I think it's something like 80% of young boys in school and females don't have one parent in their life, either their mum or father. They only have one of them, if any, because the other one's disappeared. Especially, I know it's a problem with fathers. A lot of fathers are disappearing. I mean, Philly, I know it's an issue. I mean, I know that's a big issue where these kids go to school and they're not having that father role model around because the mum and dad, they broke up when they were young and they're just not a part of their life anymore. Some of them, they were in jail. Some of them, just because they went through divorce, and that's okay. That's what sometimes these things happen. But to go back to your point, kid, even as adults, sometimes we have role models that we only once we're a little bit, it takes us a while to realize that they might not be the best people that you're surrounding yourself with. They could be that toxic person. And, when it comes to self-image, stuff that's portrayed in the media, you see these beautiful women in bikinis with thin bodies, and, and they say this is drilled into these young women that this is how you should look. I watch some programs which I won't mention, and these females and males are getting drunk. They're getting with people after people, different people, and these young females, they think that's the way to be, because here's a successful person that's making a lot of money by showing these characteristics. And it's a troubling time. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think there's like a newspaper that Aristotle wrote years and years ago. And it's funny because it says the youth of today they're terrible. They have no respect. They have short attention spans. And it's something that's written like 600 years ago. Kids, it's always the same. It's just a different environment, like what you were saying with social media. But it is worrying that there are some kids have so easy access on their phones to Facebook, and they can search anything they want. And the parents have no idea about it. So, I think I hope I answered your question there. I went on a long kind of route.
Yeah, it was about environment, and you talked about role models, and that really being essentially, what you would gather the most, one of the most important, if not the most important aspect of that environment is that there is a positive role model there to set that example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This has been great. And so, before we get off on any of our rants, I'm curious for you, now that you've been a part of programs like One Life Dare to Dream, you run your own mentorship programs. Where can people find hope? Where can people, what can we look forward to with regards to what you're seeing with some of these transformations, or are you seeing some breakthroughs, or do you have hope? I'd imagine that you wouldn't keep, going doing what you're doing if you didn't see a future that was bright. So where can the One Life community draw some hope and some inspiration from this conversation?
Well, one thing that I do have a lot of hope, because of the young people out there that we've had an effect on, for them to go reach out to other young people and do the right thing. One thing that has really warmed my heart over the last, I would say, 5 years, is that emotional intelligence is being spoken of a lot more now. It's not a taboo subject. It still is in some aspects, but it's people are a lot more open to it, to talking about it. And I think that's important for our young people. I think, we've got to hone in on this, why emotional intelligence is so important, and why mastering your mind is the most important. Because once you master your mind, once you control your mind and not let it control you, it's limitless, your potential. So that's something that warms my heart. I know something that I am very passionate about. So I've spoken a lot of different entities. I've spoken in education. I've spoken in summer camp roles, non-profits, and corporations. One thing that I find is a common thread throughout that I like to talk about is simple habits that take less than 5 minutes. It might be a communication habit. It might be a habit that helps you reach your goals. I think that's where the future of working with young people is. And just teaching them, how many people go to a self-development event and they leave it feeling like they're going to be the best version of them, that they're going to do this whole entire plan. And then after 3 or 4 days, that falls through. Motivation gets you there, but habits is what keeps you going. Jim Ryan said that quote. It's one of my favorite quotes. And I think we need to teach young people, change doesn't happen overnight. People don't change because they get overwhelmed, because they think there's too much that they need to work on. for me, it's about teaching young people, and the reason why I have hope, because I know this is being done, is saying you can break it down. Like CrossFit is so successful because if you can't do a pull-up, they teach you how to do an exercise that's similar to a pull-up so that you can get to that point that you can actually do that one pull-up, right? And we need to break it down to kids and just saying, do things one at a time. If you could do, I'll give you an example, one thing that I talk about is a simple habit that you can do is try to focus on one relationship every day that you want to improve. It could be someone that you haven't spoken to in a long time and you just want to reach out and you just want to say, hey, how's it going? I miss you. I want to catch up with you. And that sparks a conversation. You don't know where that conversation is going to lead. Trying to say to them, if you just did that one time every day, in a year, you're going to have 365 healthy relationships and you're going to improve on those relationships. And it's just doing these small, simple action steps to help them get where they want to be. You want to eat healthy. All right, don't go on this crazy diet that you're going to go on for a week or 2 weeks, and then you're just going to go back to eating your normal ways afterwards. Start by waking up in the morning, drink a glass of water. And when you feel comfortable with that and you feel like that's become a habit, then move on to something else. Move on to, having a healthy breakfast. Once you feel like that, you're comfortable with that and you can take on more, then go for it. Going to the gym. All right, why don't you run for a mile every day for a month? And then once you feel comfortable with that and you feel like you're progressing and you can challenge yourself more, go for 2 miles, go for 3 miles. And naturally, it's okay if one day you don't do this. You can jump on the bandwagon. You can jump back on the bandwagon because these habits are so small. It gives me hope that if we talk about emotional intelligence and how simple, small changes in your daily routine can help you with your long-term goals, I think that's a good start for kids. I think that's somewhere where they won't be overwhelmed and they'll say, you know what, I'm just going to do this today. All I'm going to do is I'm going to go to school on time. That's what I want to focus on for the next week. See where my behavior is when I'm in school, but all I want to do is I want to win that goal of getting there on time and then go for something else. And I think kids won't feel as stressed and as anxious of trying to get it all figured out by the time that you're 19 years old, because we give that, there's so much pressure on kids you have to know what you want to do for the rest of your life, decide what college you want to go on and what course you want to take by the time you're like 17, 18 years old. Hector, I'm 27. I still don't know what I want to do. I'm just kind of going with the flow and just getting the kids to realize to breathe, take it one step at a time, and just keep on moving forward. Even if you're just moving forward once, little bit by little bit, just keep on moving forward, and you'll get to where you want to be. Does that answer your question? Or again, I'll go on my long rounds.
Yes, this has been a fantastic conversation because I think it does give people hope, right? I think that a lot of people know that the education system is broken, but no one's really doing, well, I say no one. There's the masses aren't necessarily taking as much action as you are, as the One Life Dare to Dream program, has been doing. So there is a ton of
people. Yeah, and people in the community, like, just reach out to one kid. That's all you got to do. How many people do we have in the community, Hector?
We have just about 7,000 people in the One Life community.
If we all reached out to one kid and mentored one kid, we would have made a difference to 7,000 kids. And we could do that in 6 months. And then make it another 7,000. If we reached out to 2 kids, do that. And people say, I don't have the time. If you cared about it, you'd make the time. But again, just simple changes. You have a huge impact. And you don't have any idea. The beautiful thing about working with kids is that sometimes you don't see them when they're adults. You have no idea how many kids they've then helped and what the long-lasting effect is. The starfish, the ripple effect talk, analogy. We don't have to do this massive big event and do this huge hurrah. Just start with one at a time. And if we all do that, then that's 7,000 kids that have benefited from our mentorship, so to speak.
How powerful it would be. Ben, thank you so much for spending the time today. Thank you so much for the time that you've given to the One Life Dare to Dream program. It truly is, an honor to chat today. And I'm glad we got a chance to hang out. For you guys who are tuning in and you guys are catching this, make sure that you guys like the One Life Facebook page, because that's where these interviews are recorded live. And then they are also hosted on the in the One Life Mighty Networks community. So go and join that. It's a free community where we host all of our content, and you're able to get all of the archives and all of the talks that from previous conferences. Those will be posted in there as well. We do have the One Life Dare to Dream program. It's actually something that we knew we had to put something together before the end of 2018, and so we found a way to make it happen. It's going to be happening in October, next month in Sacramento. If you'd like to sponsor a dreamer or a kid through the Dare to Dream program, we'll link up all the details here as well. So the rest of you guys have an amazing day. Ben, once again, thank you for the time. Thank you for everything that you're given, and keep inspiring, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.